All right, we are back. And we're all actually all the way back in organic molecules to start here. Talking about proteins. So when we, because I forgot to talk about something, and so I want to bring it up here. So when we have a protein, right, it's made out of, what's going on? There we go. Right, we eat this. We eat meat, but it's made out of actin and myosin. And when we break that down through the chemical process of turning protein into energy, we end up having to get rid of some nitrogen. Okay, so then our liver does this for us. It builds this molecule called urea. And our kidney helps get rid of that. So our kidney, in addition to all the stuff we've listed already, look at this, how connected all this stuff is. It's incredible. The human body's freaking incredible. So we've got to add another one here. The kidney is an organ of balance. It also removes urea, or nitrogen waste. Okay, and urea, let's go back to this nephron that we drew. Urea kind of cycles from the collection duct back to the loop of Henle and back to the collection duct. And we get rid of the amount of urea that we need. So urea will leave the collection duct, and then, it'll go back up and then leave the collection duct and go back up, and we excrete the amount we need. Some is excreted. Some is excreted. Okay? That we need to get rid of. And just so you know, urea is like it looks like this. It's a little carbonyl group with amine groups on either side. It looks something like this. Oops, nope, that's not what I want. Doop, doop. It's an oxygen. And then it's got N H2. N H2. Okay. So you see how that comes from the amine group of a protein. That's what urea is. And if you get too much of this, it's toxic for you. But your body keeps some of it, and that's why it kind of cycles like that. So I want to go through a little list here of everything that your kidney is filtering. Well, not everything, but most of it, and how much of it's keeping. And we already did this first one. So this is amount filtered per day and amount excreted. And then it's really kind of cool. Amount excreted, and then like percent absorbed, reabsorbed. Okay, and this is like substance. What is it? Okay, so we'll start with water. We already did this one. Water. This is 180 liters a day, and we excrete 1 to 2 liters. So the percent is 99% is reabsorbed. Where's my percent? It's on 5. Okay. All right, then we got sodium, which is Na, right? Na plus. This is 620 grams are filtered today. 620 grams. That's a lot. And then 4 grams are excreted. And so again, it's 99%. It's 99 for the next couple. I'm just going to draw an arrow. We got chloride. Or Cl. I need to make a different color. Chloride. Or Cl minus. There are 720 grams of that, and it's about the same, about 6 grams are excreted, so that's 99% again. About potassium, we have less of that inside of us. Potassium, I can't remember what color I usually make that. I think it's actually I don't know, we'll do it like this. Potassium. Okay, plus it's about 30 grams. Okay. And about 2 grams are excreted. So that's again about, that was actually 93%. 93%, and these are 99. I'll write it out. 99% and 99%. 99%. Okay, this next one is the one I want to talk about, but the rest are also important. Okay, let's do this one in, we'll do it in pink. This one is bicarbonate, and we've talked about this. Bicarbonate, or HCO3. CO3. Bicarbonate ion has a negative charge. This is 275 grams, and 0 grams are excreted. So 100% of it is reabsorbed. Okay, the next one is important too. Doing this blue. This is glucose. 180 grams of glucose, that's like 2 Coca-Colas worth, are getting filtered by your kidney every day. Again, 0 grams are excreted, so 100% is reabsorbed. Okay? And urea, like we just talked about. I drew that one in green. I'll do it in red here. Urea, 52 grams about. And about half of that is reabsorbed. So about 26 grams are reabsorbed, so about 50%. And then last but not least, creatine, which is involved in our muscles, right? Creatine donates phosphates in our muscles. About 1.6 grams of that. And this will vary on how active you are and stuff like that. About 1.6 grams are reabsorbed. So again, 0%. Or I'm sorry. 100% is excreted. Or 0% is reabsorbed. I have that backwards. 0%. The creatine that goes to your kidney gets rid of it. Okay. So you see how efficient the kidney is at keeping things. It's constantly running all of it through there so that it can adjust these as needed to slightly hold more salt or less salt, more or less water as needed. And the one that I want to talk about now, like this one's really interesting because like you don't lose glucose. So if you have glucose in your urine, you got some issues. And like a big one is diabetes. Like you're diabetic if you got some sweet urine, you know, or you have some kind of like other issue with your kidney itself where you're losing things that you shouldn't be losing. So we'll often look at those, like a glucose test for glucose in people's urine. The other one that's really fascinating is this one, this bicarbonate ion. Like this is, all of it is saved. Your kidney wants to hold on to this. And I talked about this in lab, but let's just talk about this reaction again. So we have, anytime you mix CO2 plus water, and our body actually has enzymes to facilitate this to make it faster. CO2 plus water it can make something called carbonic acid, which is it is H2CO3. H2, right, yeah, CO3. Okay, that's carbonic acid. I'll label it in a second. Okay, because it can donate a proton, which can then become the bicarbonate ion, which is HCO3, CO3 plus H plus H plus. Okay, so this is the this is carbonic acid. Carbonic acid, boom, and this is bicarbonate ion. And that's because it is actually going to be minus. I didn't write that in there. And this is plus. Okay. Why does your body want to save this bicarbonate ion? To basically buffer the pH of your blood. Because if we have protons in our blood, this can reabsorb it, be converted into this, and then we have an enzyme to convert it into that, and we can breathe that out. So we can reduce the acidity of our blood. If we have a lot of bicarbonate ions, this is a bicarbonate ion buffer system. It buffers the pH, and if you remember what buffers do, they prevent the change of pH. Bicarbonate ion acts as a pH buffer. It prevents changes in pH of the blood. Because if you have a bunch of acid dumped into your blood, let's say, boom, bicarbonate ion can absorb that acid, be turned into carbonic acid. There's enzymes that facilitate this. So this is controlled by an enzyme. And this is controlled by an enzyme. So they speed it up. Right? If you remember what an enzyme does, they speed it up. In either direction, actually. There's different enzymes. So if we see this get absorbed, boom, becomes that, boom. We can convert it into that, breathe it out. All right, so we can control our pH, acts as a buffer to prevent pH changes in the blood. And your kidney is involved in this process because it saves your bicarbonate ions. All 275 grams that are being filtered through, and that's like, you know, it's the same bicarbonate being filtered through over and over again. It holds on to it. We don't get rid of it. How does that work? I want to talk about that. So in your collection ducts, they kind of look like this. So we got the collection duct there. And then we would have our capillary over here next to our collection duct. So this is the lumen, the hole of a donut. It's the lumen of the collection, I'm sorry, not the collection ducts, of the tubules, of the kidney tubules. It's not the collection duct. Apologize for that. Okay, and this is blood vessels. Blood vessels. Blood vessel. Okay, so this is going to have little red blood cells in it. Cruising through. All right? This would be a red blood cell. Red blood cell. You down with the RBC? I'm down with RBC. Yeah, you know me. Okay? All right. Well, over here, these kidney tubules are obviously made out of cells. I'm not going to draw them all in, but they're made out of cells like so. And the tops of them are actually covered in little villi to help increase surface area so they can grab onto more salts and things like that. Okay? All right. What's going on here? I'm just going to go over this very, very simply. All right. So what's happening is your body is pumping out hydrogen ions. So it pumps hydrogen ions into the lumen of the kidney. This is how do we save this bicarbonate ion? So we have hydrogen ions being actively pumped out. Active transport. Okay, so we use ATP. That's what that means, right? Active transport. And you might want to draw just this little section here really big, because it's going to be a little cycle of how this works. Okay, and what is this going to mix with? It's going to mix with our bicarbonate. And I'm trying to think how I want to do it. I guess I'll spell it out. It's going to mix with our bicarbonate. I'll just do it all in. I'll do it in. I'm trying to think how I want to do it. It's going to be I'll do it in pink. HCO3 minus. And that's going to be added on to this. Right, so these are going to come together. Now, like so. And then they're actually going to be split apart. So now this would make H2, right? Just like that equation up there is H2O CO3. And then it's going to be split into carbon dioxide and water. That is going to be split into carbon dioxide and water. CO2 plus H2O. Right? And an enzyme helps facilitate that. H2O. All right. This is a tricky way essentially to get this inside of here. Because then what these do is both of these then diffuse it. They can diffuse through the cell. So diffusion. Passive transport. Diffusion. Okay, so now we have H2O, or CO2, keep it in the same order, plus H2O. All right, it's like a sneaky way to get these inside, plus H2O. Come on, you can work with me, all right? And now we just reverse this, all right? Might seem silly, but we reverse this. So what these are going to happen, and there's an enzyme that does it again, is over there. Boop. We'll draw it like kind of like that. And then boom. So again in the middle, we're going to make this, boom, like that. And then we're going to make H plus, and then over here we're going to make this guy. And then this guy is going to be transported through here. Boom. And the way it's actually transported through there is it is co-transported with a sodium ion. You don't really need to know that, but I'll write it here. I'll just write it here. To get through this membrane, co-transport with sodium ion. Na plus. All right, so we're using kind of the higher salt concentration of the tubule to pump this across here. And in order to get it in there, we're first having it absorb this H plus, and then we continue to pump that H plus out of the cell here to have it be combined into this and converted into CO2 and H2O so they can easily get inside. It's a little confusing. I know it is. I know it's a lot to understand here. What I really care that you understand is that our body holds on to the bicarbonate molecule, and that's how it acts as a buffer. And if you remember, I said this in lab, our body has it holds on to 20 times more of this, 20x more of this than carbonic acid. Because we're constantly saving this molecule and taking it and putting it back into the blood. Okay? If during the blood filtrate, it's going to go into the tubule, it's going to absorb a hydrogen ion, be converted into CO2 and H2O. Those are going to be diffuse across, and they're going to be in low concentration here. So they're going to diffuse across the membrane, follow the diffusion gradient, be then converted into a proton and bicarbonate acid, which then a sodium molecule goes through a little pump at the same time. It's called co-transport to then pump this back into the blood. And that's how we save all of it. There's a little mechanism to save all of your bicarbonate from your blood if it goes into your kidney. It's pretty nifty. It's a little confusing, I know, but I hope that makes sense. If not, that's okay. I still love you. All right, that's some of the amazing crap about your kidney. So like, oh, there's one other thing I wanted to talk about real quick. Kidney stones. I just want to pull up an image of these. Yeah, what the heck are these things? So kidney stones form, and there's different kinds. But calcium oxalate is probably the most common. And so if you have some kind of issue like with oxalate, you want to avoid, or like the potential for these types of kidney stones, you want to avoid eating foods that are high in oxalate, for example, like spinach. But kidney stones, these form here in the renal pelvis. And then you'll have these large crystals. They're crystals of molecules. Just like your bone is a crystal. It's like a tiny little bone that's forming inside of your kidney. And there's all different kinds that can form. And they have different shapes. Some are spikier. Some are more looking like actual stones like this. Let me show you like, yeah, this is like a kidney stone, like EM image. This is pretty cool. Like if we look at it with an electron microscope, boom, like you could see that. So then if we have this big old kidney stone, draw like this, kind of forming like this. Boom, 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 boom. And that boy's pretty big, let's say. All right. Well, now it gets dislodged, and now it's like stuck in your ureter, and then it's going to go down into your bladder, and then you're going to have to pass it through your urethra. Bro, you don't want that. Best kind of way to avoid these is hydrate a lot. Make sure you're drinking plenty of fluids. That way you won't have really concentrated urine that will more easily allow for crystals to form. Yeah, I mean, that's the number one way. One of the ways they'll treat it then is like through sonication, try to break it up. Or they'll send a freaking probe straight up in here, with a camera on it, and go up in there and try to cut it with lasers and all kinds of stuff. They'll come in from the side with little sonicators. So just drink plenty of fluids. That's my recommendation. And, you know, just be grateful that like your kidney's doing all, like your kidney, it's this organ of balance. And it's keeping all of this and more in balance for you. And you would need to use this machine several times a week in order to like serve the function of your kidney. It's incredible. So, all right. I hope you learned something in that one. It's a pretty interesting organ, and yeah, people don't necessarily appreciate. They just say, "Oh, it's this filter organ." Well, it's like a reabsorption organ that's controlling your blood pressure and your pH, and it's also activating your vitamin D and just doing all kinds of crazy stuff, saving all your blood sugar and all of your bicarbonate. It's doing work. And you have 1.5 extra kidneys. You only really need a half of one of them. That's how good it is at its job. But your biology is like redundant. So take care of your kidneys, man. Hydrate. All right. I'll see you in the next one.